Hello, and welcome to another episode of Develop with WP. As always, my name is Bobby, and today we're on, I believe, the 7th video in our How to Build a Plugin tutorial series. In the previous video, we covered creating a custom post type, and in today's video, we're going to kind of follow along that same, area of WordPress, I guess, and cover taxonomies because the way I see it, custom post types or post types and taxonomies go hand in hand. They're both really, they both really have a lot to do with how data is managed within WordPress. The post type is what helps the post type allows us to better facilitate the ease of use it is as far as putting content into WordPress. And then, as you'll find out as we cover today, taxonomies really help organize that data. So what are taxonomies? Well, like I just said, essentially taxonomies, the reason they exist is they exist so that we have a way to categorize and group different pieces of content in an organized fashion so that when users come to our sites, they're able to navigate around and find similar content to whatever brought them there to begin with. Within WordPress, you get two standard types of taxonomies, which you probably have used a lot, which are called categories and tags. But sometimes, just like with post types, you want to create a custom taxonomy to do something slightly different. And that's what we're going to do today. So to set the story, I guess, here, we're creating our jobs listing plugin, and one of the things that we want to do is we want to group our content. And the way we want to group our job content is we want to group them by location. That way, a user who comes to our site and is looking for a job doesn't have to look at every job we have available. They could just look at the jobs in their area or in an area they would like to move to, like Maui. I don't know, something like that. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get started. Enough talking. My goal this time is to make this video shorter than all the previous ones. All right. So to create a custom taxonomy, we go to the WordPress codex and we use this function called register taxonomy. And if we scroll down, you'll see that it takes 3 parameters. And if we look at those parameters, taxonomy is required, object type is required, and args is optional. And just like the custom post type, if we look at the args, there's a bazillion labels and not quite as many arguments, but there's still right many arguments that you could set for your custom taxonomy, just like there was for custom post types. All right, so let's get started. Open up our code editor, go down past our post type, and we're going to create a new function. And we're going to call this one register taxonomy. It's going to be an add action, just like the post type, and it's also going to be on a init, just like the post type. And we're calling our function to be named. All right. So I think we're going to try and do this one a little bit different than the last ones. We're going to work backwards, so to say. So in essence, at the end of the day, we need to call register taxonomy. So let's do that. And let's look at the codex. Register taxonomy takes a string. This is the taxonomy name. So this can be whatever we want it to be. It just has to be unique. We're going to call ours location. The next parameter we need to pass is the object type. So what that's saying is what post type does this custom taxonomy is it for? What post type is this taxonomy for? In our instance, it's for our job taxonomy, and the name that we put here isn't any of these names like job listing or any of that stuff. It's literally the name that you called when you did the register post type function. So in this case, it's just job. And then the last thing we can pass in is a variable called args, which is something that we will have to define. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go here and let's create our args. It's going to be an array. This is, again, very similar to our post type. And to save time, I am going to paste this in. And then we're going to cover it. Let's make ourselves look good here. All right. So the first parameter we have on here, first off, disclaimer: I don't have every argument that's in this codex on here, but I do have a lot of the important ones. The takeaway here is that, for example, like you see capabilities here. So if you find that you're building a taxonomy that needs to be very exclusive to who can access it, then sure, you're going to want to assign the capabilities and do all that kind of stuff. I am not for this one. Pretty much if you can create a job listing post in my book or in my example, then you can also create a location. But just know that there are a whole bunch of different parameters here, and it's up to you when it comes time for your unique situation where you're creating one to find out what you need to use. I'm just going to cover some of the core ones that you're going to generally use. So the first one is hierarchical. So earlier I told you, WordPress comes with 2 default taxonomies, categories and tags. And the only difference between the two really is this hierarchical parameter right here. And what this means is, do you want your taxonomy to have a parent-child relationship like categories do, or do you want it to not have parent-child relationships like a taxonomy? So that's really all that you're saying right here. And in our example, we're going to set it to true because we want it to have parent-child relationships, because we want to be able to have the ability with these locations to create states as parent taxonomies and then create cities as children to those states. The next parameter we have is labels, which is set to a variable that we still need to create. So we're going to do that in just a second. Showing UI and showing admin column. These are, whether or not you can see them in the admin. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. Do you want to be able to pull a post count? If you do, you're going to need to set this callback function. Do you want this to be queryable? You're going to need to set that. And then the rewrites, if you want this to have a unique slug so that it's like at /location, then you're going to want to put this rewrites for this slug. And if I'm not mistaken, let's see if I can find that. Yep. Just like with the custom post type, this rewrite, as you can see, I have it as an array with just one input, which is odd. But the reason is because there's actually an array of different things that you can set for your rewrite rules. All right, so let's keep going. The next thing, like I said, is we're going to have to create our labels. It's going to be equal to an array. And we're also going to create 2 more variables just to make this super quick and easy to replicate, which I'll show you. I'll show you here in just a second. If you saw our custom post type video, we did the same thing there. All right, singular. Okay, so we're going to set a variable to plural, and it's going to be the plural version of our taxonomy. So in this case, it's going to be locations, and then the singular version is just going to be location. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reference those in our labels. As you can see here in the codex, there could be more than there are for custom post types. I think there are actually more, but you can see all the different labels that you can set. And I, again, am going to copy these because I suck at typing. All right, I'll put them in here. Boom. So what you can see here is you can actually see our variables we set up here in action. So for the name, we're going to be using the plural version. So it's going to be locations. Singular name obviously is going to be just location, the singular. And then we're also concatenating these strings with our variables to create dynamic messages that get used in the dashboard. And you'll see some of these here in just a minute. So I'm going to save this. And we should be set. So let's walk through this really quick. We have a singular and plural, which I just mentioned. We're using those and using concatenation and calling those in our labels array. This labels array is getting passed into our args along with a couple of other different important arguments. And then we're registering that taxonomy to the jobs custom post type, giving it a name, passing in those args, and then calling an add action so that WordPress actually utilizes and runs this function. So let's go back to our dashboard. And if I go to job listings, it does not show up. Let's see. Oh, a knit is spelled wrong. Gosh. It's always something dumb too. All right. Locations. Oh, man. Locations. So now we can see our locations pops up underneath our job listing just the same way categories and tags show up under our posts. If we click on it, you'll see that we have this parent. So we do have it set to be hierarchical. If I were to go in here and set this to false and save it, you would see it disappear. So right here you'll see we have California and Los Angeles, and they're not parent-child relationships not set up because I just turned it off. If I go back and set it to true, you'll see that it comes back, and that's because I had already previously set up Los Angeles, and if you look, it already has the California set as the parent. So that's really neat to see. I'm not going to mess around with a lot of these. I mean, another one I'll say, so show in UI, let's set that to false. Update, and you'll see that it doesn't show up. It still exists, and you could still, do stuff with it, but it's not like front facing. So let's change that back. All right, so that's really it for this video. That's how you create a custom taxonomy. We could sit here and create a number of custom taxonomies. If you were going to create a lot of taxonomies, it would probably be best to create this in a class so that you could just keep spinning up different taxonomies really quickly. If you don't want to do an object-oriented method with this, the beauty of the way we have it set up too is that you simply change these two variables up here, maybe change some of your arguments around based on what this thing does, and then give it a new name, and voila, you have another post type in a matter of seconds. So that is really cool the way we have it structured. So again, thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you sticking around and sticking through my poor humor. But I do hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you in the next video. The next video, I'll have to think about that. We got a lot of stuff to do with this plugin, but I really haven't planned out what the next video will be. So we will see. But again, thanks, and I'll see you later.